Welcome to TNJRadio. How you feeling?
Feeling good, man. Ready to make it happen. I remember when you talked about doing this years ago, and to see it happen live now, I'm definitely happy about it. Definitely happy to be a part of it, and all I want to do is support, brother.
Okay, well, it's been an interesting journey, and this is your first time here. So let's start from the beginning for those who don't know you. Now, you're from Pittsburgh, right?
Yes, I am born and raised from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, specifically Penn Hills slash Homewood, depending upon who's looking at it. But yeah, that's where I'm from exactly.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you were in the area where you were kind of on the border. Is that right?
Yeah, so I believe that Homewood is 3 houses away from me, and I'm like at the end of the Penn Hills area. Now, some of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, so Penn Hills, well, is or was considered like semi-nicer area of Pittsburgh, but now it's a little different. Still nice, but not as nice as it was before, in my opinion. However, the Homewood is a lot different. It's a whole different neighborhood. It is definitely one of the worst neighborhoods that Pittsburgh has to offer. I've had a lot of fun there, though, surprisingly, despite the crime and all the other things that are going on. But yeah, that was the situation. Being raised there, there was a lot of uh, rough situations, and seeing a lot of people get into a lot of like bad, habits, and whether it be drugs, whether it be just, broke poverty, whatever you want to call it. That was a lot of the situations that took place. Growing up, that was definitely something that motivated me to, keep moving forward. But, you know, it was rough. It's for some people, especially, for me, I wouldn't say I had a rough childhood in terms of like crime or all that. I'm not one of the people that try to fake the funk and say, oh, yeah, I was, getting shot at every day. Like there were shootings near me, like right by my house, but I don't know. I just never was in it. So that's just kind of the situation. But it was a little rough around the areas.
Okay. So you grew up in officially, we'll say Penn Hills, right?
Legally, legally, legally.
And you were doing legal things at the time, right?
Yes, well, still am at the time. But yeah, definitely was. So, like I said, everyone else was doing stuff. My mom, see what happened, my mother, she had me in church a lot. So during that time, that kind of kept me away from all the craziness because she just had me in church. She got me some good mentors to give me a lot of guidance. Plus, my father was still in my life as well. So I kind of got a good upbringing in terms of not getting into trouble. Okay. So that was, one positive. My parents really kept me out of the fray. Though a lot of friends of mine, I still, even to this day, were involved with a lot of those things, but I just never was, for whatever reason. So over time, I just started to really focus in on, the worlds I'm in now and just, continue to grow. But I never really got caught up with all the craziness.
Well, typically when people say any parent was still involved in their life, that means that there was something a little bit different from being a straight on 2-parent household that you grew up in. Were your mother and dad both living in the same household when you were growing up?
Yeah, well, initially. So there's a couple of situations. So my mom, she is very much a traveler, at least especially at that time. So she liked to travel a lot. She had a lot of fun with that. From time to time, I would go with her, but most of the time I was at home with my dad. But for whatever reason, they had a rocky scenarios with the relationship, and it didn't work out. So at 29 years into being married, and literally like the same week that her mother had passed, which is my grandmother, I believe it that literally like the same week they basically separated. And so I went from being with my dad all the time to then being with my mom all the time, even though me and my mom got along. But it was the first time that she really was like had to be around all the time, like consistently, because she was either working or traveling a lot. We still spent time together. You know, it wasn't like she was a bad mom or anything like that, but it's just that she worked a lot and traveled a lot. So, you know, now she can't do that anymore because her and my father had split, and my father had found, you know, someone else that he wanted to be with, and then that was a whole scene in itself. But you know, thank God, both of them, you know, went different directions because I think that it was better for both of them anyway. To be honest with you, so, but
Well,
you know, it just happened.
how so?
Well, I just think that, you know, when I was growing up, I didn't really see my parents like connect, like date, go out, party, hang out with friends. Like that really wasn't the culture. Even though they lived together, I didn't grow up in the household that was always around each other. Now, you know, there were some arguments, but I don't think they hated each other or anything like that. It was just, you know, some people just don't see eye to eye at the end of the day. So when it comes down to, you know, us coming together and doing the whole family thing, that this wasn't really like we would do the family thing with other people in the family, but not like just the three of us going out to someplace. You know, it was like never the situation, you know, which was weird because I get along with my mom and I got along with my father, you know, really well. So I didn't understand that. But that's just is one of those situations. So I can say about that.
Right. And whenever they had went their separate ways, how old were you about?
11 years old. So yeah, they left when I was 11. Um, and that was, like I said, a very, you know, rough experience. Especially, like I said, because it was just such a separation. And I remember, you know, I was having a conversation with my dad but like the day he was leaving, and I just kept asking like, "Why are you leaving? Why are you leaving?" He just kept telling me like, you know, I can't really explain it so you won't understand. And you know, at the time, I really didn't understand. I still technically don't know why now, um, but you know, I never really got a clear answer on that. But I think it's more about him just being respectful to my mother and not trying to make me look at her in a bad light or choose sides. So, you know, and vice versa on her part as well. So that's why I said I still don't technically know, you know, why things couldn't have worked out, but it didn't work out.
Okay. So with them going their separate ways and you knowing that, what are some takeaways that you have used in current relationships to be able to help you with relationships?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Well, the first issue was spending time together, going out together. I think that is like so important because you know in this day and age, there's a lot of different couples that are coming together, and you know they don't really understand the work that it takes to be with one person, like and wholly with that person. And it's a lot of work, you know, and it's not easy. And you know, anyone that's you know been with anyone for a long time, whether married or not, you know, they can definitely tell you it's a lot of work because there's a lot of changes that you're going to have to make in yourself for it to work and for yourself to be better, just in general. So, you know, I've took a lot from my family and learned about, you know, spending time together was like the number one thing and having that communication, going out to different places and really just talking. You know, a lot of that one-on-one time. And I think sometimes, you know, families may have children faster than they should because they don't spend that time to get to know each other, to really work on their relationship. You know, they just sometimes go into having a child because maybe they're attracted, they want to have, you know, sex or whatever that may be. And they forget about like, wait a minute, I got to make sure I really like you. You know, you got to make sure you really like me and you like me when things are good and bad. And I like you when things are good and bad. You know, that's a different level of relationship. So, you know, I think, you know, families may have children faster than they should because they don't spend that time to get to know each other. To really work on their relationship. You know, they just sometimes go into having a child because maybe they're attracted, they want to have, you know, sex or whatever that may be. And they forget about like, wait a minute, I got to make sure I really like you. You know, you got to make sure you really like me and you like me when things are good and bad. You know, those are, you know, that's what it really takes. And I think sometimes people forget that part, that you really have to be there, through all the good days and the bad days. And, people always talk about, relationships don't work. Well, no, really, nothing works, really by itself. When it comes to us, we have to make it work. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the situation. So that's what I've really taken away from that, because again, at the time, I really didn't know or understand everything. But over the years, I'm 34 now. At the time I was 11. So, I learned a lot in this last, 23, 24 years, so forth. So it's a lot of information that's come about. So as a result, I've definitely gotten better, when it comes to the relationship world. I still have a lot to learn. It's still a process, but it's been moving along.
Okay. Now, you had mentioned how you were kept out of a lot of trouble by being involved in the church and different things like that. But what about times when you were away from that situation? Let's use school, for example. How was it going to school around that middle school time?
I was actually a bad kid. Like, it's so opposite of how I act now. But yeah, I was a really bad kid. Like, when my father and them had separated, I was in middle school basically. And then I remember I think I was going into like sixth or seventh grade or something like that. And I just started acting up. I was always in fights and getting suspended. It got so bad. And whoever is from Pittsburgh, probably, well, if I went to Greater Works Christian School, which at the time was Greater Works Academy. And yeah, so during that time, it got so bad where I would just go to school and just to talk about people. Like, I was just a complete, just not a good guy. So I was like the verbal bully, but I also did fight. Even though I didn't like bully people with fighting, but I was always talking bad about people. And my class was that was the crowd. Like, we were always just saying who could say the most disrespectful statement to whoever it was. And that was a joke. Like, it was just the thing, like every day for like years. This went on until I think it was well, actually, it caused me to flunk out of school. I mean, not flunk out, but repeated grade in seventh grade because of this, because I was just going to school, just talking crazy, not really paying attention. I was just in there to be a class clown. That was literally my goal. Like, I didn't care about anything else because I was so, dealing with that emotional situation. And I used to get bullied as a kid. So I went to Shenandoah and I used to get like bullied there. I was at school in Penn Hills. And then so after I was, getting bullied there, when I went to fifth grade, I was like, I am not letting anybody bully me in this school. So, I had to go to a Christian school to try to be a bully. But yeah, so that's what happened. I was just at it with a lot of people. And a lot of people were at it with me. I wasn't, just a predator. There was a victim of some crazy stuff then too. But school was a challenge, because like I said, kids are ruthless, man. They don't care about feelings or none of that. They don't have tact. They just say whatever they think. So it's very, in some ways, more difficult, I think, than adulthood in some ways in terms of how people talk to you without fear of repercussions. Where here, at least, as you grow older, people think about what's going to happen next. You're younger, they just say whatever. So, yeah, it was a challenge, but it was kind of crazy because as I, got out of that, eventually went to high school, started doing much better in school, but it took me some time. Because from seventh to ninth grade, I was just acting up, really just acting up the whole time. So that was my life.
Okay. Well, what was different between that time in middle school and high school?
Yeah. Honestly, it's just maturity. Really, it's just getting older. I can't really say any specific event that took place. Well, I think in ninth grade, I realized that like I wanted to go to college and I couldn't just keep playing around in school. I wanted to go to college. And I felt like I had my fun like the last few years. Like, all right, now I can finally focus. I got that out of my system. So, from like, I would say ninth grade till 12th grade, I started doing a lot better in school and, really made that a priority. So that was the whole, focus for me. But it was really just, I got in so much trouble all the time. And, that was kind of the thing. And what I was going to say, even when I was in seventh grade, part of why I got in trouble so much is, like I said, our class would get together and talk about each other. And it was so bad that the principal, was named, oh my gosh, I think it's Mr. Aiken. That was his name at the time. And he made us literally go to, what class was it? No, he brought everyone inside of his office. Okay. And we came into office and he told us, look, if you guys stop talking about each other in class, we're going to give you pizza every 2 weeks. We didn't make it to the next, like past the next period of, like, right after he told us that, we were like, okay, cool, we're going to do it. And then literally the next period, we were right back at talking about each other, and it didn't go well. Like, it was a bad time. So, like I said, by the time I got to ninth grade, I started to mature a little bit, saw different things, wanted different things, and really got the right mentorship. Because once my mother, my brother, and my father had separated, my mom really started putting me into more mentorship. And I would say if there's anything that changed, that was it. That kind of got me from being way out there, because it gave me some type of like father, like fathership or some in some way. I actually was in a group called Brothers Keepers, which is really good. Shout out to Brothers Keepers, always love them. But they helped a lot. That pastor there named Gil Duncan. It was Eric Jones. There's a lot of people that I definitely, appreciate, during that time. But a lot of good men that really gave good advice and weren't, weird or funny or trying to do anything like to take advantage of anybody. Like, I have the highest, respect for Brothers Keepers and the whole organization. So if anyone has a kid that's struggling emotionally, especially a young man, young boy, send in the Brothers Keepers, even if you're in a different state. Okay, they would definitely take care of them. But yeah, that was kind of my situation. So as I was a part of the Brothers Keepers group, they really helped me get myself together emotionally and just get on the right track.
How so?
Specifically, their mentorship was like very personal. So, I would meet with the different mentors like all the time. But I would go visit them, go to their house, meet their family. Like, it was really involved, which is so interesting now because now it sounds so crazy. Like, you went to this person's house, like that never would happen to today's age. Everyone's so worried about, someone doing something weird with their kid. But at the time, I never had any of those problems, like ever, with anybody. So, it was just luck, I will say, maybe. But this particular, like I said, Brothers Keepers really didn't have nothing weird like that going on, and never has, as far as I've, heard. So that's really what, helped. Like, I would meet with them. They would have meetings as well to talk about, your career path, schooling, being a better man. Really, a lot of it was just about being a better man as a whole. And I talk about this a lot, and I do videos because so many men, we get so caught up on getting the bag and forget that, like, hey, the bag is one part of the situation, but you personally have to be better too. Like, just because you have money does not make you a better man. You know what I mean? Just because, like, if you have no money, doesn't make you a horrible man either. So, you got to do all of it and keep that right, order in your system. So that's, one of the things, again, I picked up as I was going through that, and, I've kind of carried it since then.
Okay. So with the mentoring and molding, obviously different person emerged in high school.
Mm-hmm.
What are your earliest remembrances of entrepreneurship?
Oh, yeah. Well, I would say, it all started. Okay, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. So, again, going back to this mentorship thing, but I went to this group or this building or community technically called Hosanna House, which is owned by Leon Haynes. He was, and I think still is, a pastor at Covenant Church. And he was, really good mentor. He was really popular in Pittsburgh. I think anyone who lives in Pittsburgh has probably heard or seen him, or at least seen his building, which is Hosanna House, which is in Wilkinsburg. And so as I was there, I saw him, and he was like, I was the first Black businessman I had ever seen that was like outside of my father who was doing things, but I didn't really understand as much as my father was doing, as much as I like saw, Mr. Leon, and I was just like, wow, he has his own business and he has his whole building and it's like his own thing and everyone's like looking up to him. And I've never seen that, like because when I was growing up, as well as you're probably you as well, Black businessman, that wasn't really the thing. It was like rappers that was the thing, or being a basketball player or football player. If you didn't know how to do one of those three, then or at least sing, maybe, if you had to have one of those four things together, you couldn't do one of the four, you were really kind of on the outskirts, in terms of success. So being a Black businessman, I really had never seen one. So when I saw him, he is 100% the reason why I do business now. He's completely started that without even directly telling me to do it. And that's the funny part. This was just being himself. Like I just saw him like, I got to do that, and then, we ended up talking about it, have, several conversations, since then. And I was also close with his sons. And it was a good thing, but overall, he specifically that was the first introduction. And then as that took place, because I used to go to a summer camp. And as I was in the summer camp, summer camp was at Hosanna House. So that's why, I was going up there all the time and really got to see him and interact with him as we went to the same church. So it was kind of, both times, at least 3-4 times a week, I'd see this guy in motion. So I just really, garnered a lot of respect for him. And then, from that point forward, I said, I got to do my own thing. So my very first business was an odd jobs business I did. So I was literally like helping people wash their dishes, clean the floors, mop their house, whatever it may be. That was kind of what I did. So I literally like printed out flyers and gave them around the church and the different people. And I did get some, business from that. I was actually kind of surprised. I had to call and get some referrals, but yeah, it did work. It's my first business. Didn't make a lot of money, but probably made, I don't know, maybe a few $100s. But as a kid, to make money from scratch on your own idea, I had never seen anybody do that like at my age. So I was just really, excited about that. So that's kind of what happened. And, over time, that just kind of developed from there.
Okay. Now, a few $100s as a kid, I mean, that was huge. Especially, I remember doing snow days, going out and shoveling snow. If you can get $30, where I was from, that was a pretty good day.
Right. Exactly.
This few $100s, what period of time was it over?
Oh, this was over, I don't know. I think I was doing that for maybe like a few months. I don't think I did it a long time. Maybe like maybe I don't even know if it was that. Yeah, it probably was around that long. It was a while ago. It's like 20 years ago. So I gotta go back in the memory. But yeah, it was I think it was about 3, maybe 4 months that I was doing the business. And, I couldn't charge a lot because I was a kid. Like, I didn't think people would take me seriously, but I just was happy to have my flyers out. I put them out at church, and, a lot of people respected that because no other kid was really, I was 15, but no one else was really doing that. And I didn't have a car. So my mom didn't even have a car, I think, by that point. I think she had just got a car that year. When I was 15, but we didn't really have, a way to get around. So I was having to like catch the bus to go help people and do, help them do whatever they need to do in their house. And I remember I had one particular close friend of mine who was, he had like him and his wife had a apartment and they wanted me to do their dishes and stuff like that. So I was over there doing that all the time and trying to, get things together. But that was my life. And they would give me maybe $15, $20 here, $10 there. And I would also I do the shoveling snow and do that whole thing too. So I definitely, put that as a part of my list of topics. But, I got mad. I had a neighbor actually, and actually no one knows this story but this neighbor that took place. But she, she basically wanted me to mow her lawn and do her hedges and stuff like that. Then, for whatever reason, she wanted me. I don't know why. It was probably my fault, but I didn't think that I was supposed to put the grass or whatever I cut in bags. Like, I thought that was just beyond belief, because she was only giving me like $75, and which I thought was already like a lot. I mean, I didn't think that was adequate to the amount of work I had to do by myself, because she has a big yard. She has a whole backyard, and I'm in the backyard, like, looking for snakes, making sure I don't die. Like, it was bad. But she had me doing a lot of work, and then I had to go put all this grass, all these hedges, all this stuff in bags, and then put the bags in front of her house by myself. I was not happy about that job at all. And we had an argument about it, and then I was like, no, I'm not doing this. And I stopped doing that business after that. At the time, I didn't know how to deal with clients and that whole world. So, yeah, I stopped literally that day. So I was like, I'm not doing this. People ain't going to put me through slavery. So, yeah, I got a whole, thing with that. So, yeah, I didn't, I couldn't continue.
Okay. Speaking of slavery, what did you do with the money that you made?
Oh, that was not good. I have no idea. I probably, let me just think about it. I haven't even thought about what I did with that money then, but I'm sure I used it for some type of either, I used to buy a lot of magazines, so I probably used it for that. I'm pretty sure I was always like to put pictures and posters in my walls when I was younger. So I probably spent some money on posters, and also buying more flyers. I know I did that. So reinvest a little bit. But that was pretty much it. That's all at least I can recall as of right now.
Okay. Now, if you could talk to your teenage self, what would you tell him to do with the money?
Ooh, with the $300 right now, there's so many different. This is like I can give you like a book's worth of things to do with whatever way you want to go with $300. And obviously, when I look at myself, then I would have reinvested it into more advertising, and I would have probably done it that way, and saved at least 100 of that 300, just so that I could possibly pay some other people to help me with this work. So that's probably what I should have done: is advertised, saved a little bit to help me, so I can get more work done and less of me being there. That's probably what I would tell myself, honestly.
Sounds like a plan. Now, we move forward. You graduate. At that time, after that graduation ceremony, what were you thinking?
Oh, I knew I was going to make something happen. I don't know. I was going to Cal U after that. For those of you who do not know, it's California University, Pennsylvania. Yes, there is a California in Pennsylvania, for the 1,000th time. But yes, that is true. So when I graduated, I was pretty motivated. I just felt like, sky's the limit. I really wasn't nervous at all. I just felt like, I'm going to figure something out. And then I went to college and, had some good times there. But I was completely culture shocked because, as a kid, I was in church all the time. So my mom and family, they never let me around a lot of different types of people. Because I remember, I went to a Christian school in 5th grade. So public schooling was out of the question for me. I wasn't around that. And then when I finally went to that, college, I finally got to see like, oh, this is what the world really is doing. I had no idea this was going on. So, you got people into all types of stuff. And it was a hard thing to adjust to because I didn't know that the world like operated that way. And even now I think about how like college life is like such a small portion of all the other things that are taking place in America. But at the time it was massively different for me, So I had to adjust to college, to really trying to, just get used to that whole scene of being in school, taking classes. And I was so, and there was girls there. So I was like, oh, wow. Like I've never been around like this many girls. Like this is crazy. I was so distracted, just so distracted. Yeah, definitely distracted.
Okay. What were you going to school for?
I switched my major a couple times, but initially I was going to school for business administration. Um, and then I switched, actually, it was counting for some reason, even though I don't like counting. And then I switched it over to the business administration. Then I went to do sports management. So I kind of switched it up several times. I did like business and sports management. So as a result, with the sports management, I had some fun there. That basically, with anyone who's taken that type of course or courses for sports management, I would say it's probably more fun than maybe other majors, but it's also a little bit more work in some ways because the class part is pretty fun, but I had to actually work at a lot of the games, which some people sound like, oh, that's a great thing. You get to work at like the Steeler games. But, if you've been to Pittsburgh, it is cold as possible. Like Pittsburgh's cold is like record breaking. Like if God could find a place to say, I'm going to freeze the hell out of you, it would be Pittsburgh. I've never been colder in my life anywhere. Okay. Like, and the worst part is when I was working at these games, I'm in the cold for 3-4 hours straight because I have to do concessions. So, they have me concession stands just so I can get credits for doing some sports management work or whatever that is. It's really just free work, free labor for the Steelers. But that's a whole other issue. The main thing was, you know, I was literally over there and just freezing, and it was just so bad. It was so bad. So even though we were winning and I was happy about the Steelers winning, I was equally upset that I was being this cold. And yeah, it was one of those situations. So I definitely had some fun with the process, but I definitely don't miss that level of cold at all.
Okay. And it probably wouldn't have hurt to be able to get paid at that time.
Yeah, I don't. I think they may have given us like $25 for working for those times. And again, I just felt like that's just a joke. And it was really $25, but you're going to spend that on any food that you eat while you're at the game. So it's really giving it back to them. So I said it's basically like free because I have to give it right back to them. So I was not happy with that. And I had to drive an hour to get there. So I was just altogether a loss.
Okay, so you mentioned going to Cal U, and you were there for a few years. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. What notable things that were different did you take on for a lifetime?
Being resilient because I went to school. I had got a full scholarship to the school, so I thought I was doing something, you know. And about 2 years in, I go to log into my school email account, and I couldn't get in. And I was wondering what was going on. So I ended up calling the school, and they're like, "Yeah, you actually flunked out. You didn't, you were on. I didn't realize I was on academic probation again, and then I ended up not, you know, keeping my grades up to a certain level, and literally they just said, yeah, you're flunked out, and we can't keep you in school any longer, and or at least on the scholarship. So I was really, really disappointed about that, like because if you know the story, my mom had me go, like when I first went to college, she had me go and talk in front of her whole church about me going to school, and everybody was praying for me and all this stuff. So it was like a scene. So then I'm thinking about that as I'm realizing I'm no longer able to keep going to the school, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to tell her this news. And yeah, we finally had the conversation. It was bad. I mean, she was not happy at all. And I couldn't tell her, no, I didn't have no good answers. I was just like, yeah, I messed this all the way up. And I remember my friend CJ said something to me that really just, sometimes somebody says the right thing at the right time. And he just told me, like, he's going to come back stronger than ever. And even though it's such a basic message, but my emotional state at the time was just so bad, and I was just so down, and I was just, negging myself out mentally, and he just said that, and I was like, well, you're right. I should just come back stronger than ever. And after that, I started working on getting into Full Sail University, and I got a scholarship to go there. Somehow, don't know, don't ask, because I can't even tell you how, because I don't even know what I did or how I pulled it off. But they gave me a scholarship to go there, and not a full scholarship, but mostly everything covered in terms of the scholarship. And I was really excited about that. So I ended up moving to Florida, lived in Orlando, and it was definitely a process. You know what I mean? I was there, and I was definitely just learning the whole school thing, but I always felt like I didn't uh, want to do school forever, and then as I got older, I started realizing, like, I don't really judge people in terms of their intellect by schooling, especially now. But even then, because, when I saw the people that were doing good in school, I just felt like, I don't think these people are really smarter than me. I just feel like they're good at memorizing a textbook or a study guide better than I am. Memory is better, but I don't know if they are just naturally smarter. We'd have conversations. I'm like, this person is not this far advanced in terms of the English language or whatever it may be. So, that was kind of my story. So, and I kept wanting to work. And I also, that separate from this issue with the school system, I also always knew I was going to do business. So, I told you about the first business, but I used to also sell Cutco knives. I did that. It's where I met my business partner now, but also my best friend that's out here in the Texas area in Dallas. So my friend Brent, and at that time, we used to sell Cutco knives. That's something that we shared in common. But during that window, when I was selling knives, I was learning how to make money then. I also like the whole business thing. So when I'm thinking about schooling, it's like I have to go to school because I want to make my mom happy and I don't want to disappoint her after failing. But I also think I'm more made for this business world, and I always liked the business world. I didn't like being controlled. That was the biggest thing for me. Until this day, I'm still the same. Like, I can't stand, when I would go to work. And I actually had a job at this place called Giant Eagle. And it was interesting because I had a manager at the time that, wasn't happy with, I did all this extra work. I think I had stayed extra for, I think it was a little over maybe 2 hours. Okay. I was working extra. I was what do you call it? Stock boy. So I was just stocking up all the groceries in the store and all that. And I thought I did this really good job. And I went over and beyond, stayed extra time, didn't even put it on the clock. I think something to that degree. And the next day, my boss comes in and was yelling at me for telling me I didn't do this right and I got to do this right. And what's wrong with you? And how could you do this wrong? And I was just devastated. I was so mad because I was like, I put in all this extra time. And then I got mad really that he was telling me what to do and kind of altering my work schedule because of how he felt at the moment. So I just felt like, oh, nope, I can't do this job thing that much longer. Like, I'm going to be eventually phasing out of this job life, once I figure out what I'm going to do with this business world. So, that was kind of where it all began. That actual moment, when he came at me and I was just so mad, because I don't like dealing with that. Um, so, after that time, I moved on and, been doing business. Not ever since, but I've been trying to do some business ever since. And then, it's definitely grown up from there.
Okay. Now,
I know that was like a really long answer. Sorry. Maybe I'm going to shorten these answers.
it's all good, man. Now you're down at Full Sail University, that's
Hmm.
Orlando. What was
Yeah.
the plan at that time?
Oh, at Full Sail, I was really just focused on, honestly, I did okay in Full Sail, but I was really just trying to be there because I liked the school. It looks cool. It still looks cool. Still one of the coolest looking schools I've ever seen in my life. But um, I don't know. I just wanted to get into entertainment business because my goal was to actually have my own TV station. I wanted to do my own uh, like TV network, and which is still on my list at the time. I just, that was just the vision. So I just wanted to have my own station. I was so like adamant about that. I actually had made a Christian TV station online. I just basically like assembled a whole bunch of videos of, people speaking and pastors, and had this thing called J Rocka TV back in like 2007 or 9. And I think it's when I met you around this time, actually, when I started this station. So, yeah, hey, we go back. It was a long time ago. Anyway, so so I started this whole TV station, and that was my goal then. So when I went to Full Sail, I just wanted to expand that and really do that. And then from there, it just became more about having a TV station at all. So I used to, while I was in Full Sail, I was also trying to get into like doing some other work. So I was trying to get a job at the public broadcasting network in Orlando, Florida. And obviously I had no experience whatsoever to give me a job. So I just said I'll volunteer. So I volunteered, and I had to walk 3 hours there because I had no car and no money, and 3 hours back. So it was a long journey, but I really, really, really wanted to get into TV, and that's just kind of the hunger that I had. And even now, I still have a lot of hunger. And so that's why at the time, that was just where I was at. I really wanted to learn. So I was doing this for, a while, just walking there 3 hours, and nobody really knew what I was doing. They just saw me, oh, he's walking home. They just assumed that I lived down the street, and I was literally like 3 hours walking away. And it was, oh God, it was bad. Feet hurt. My shoes broke in the rain a couple times. So I had some really cheap shoes. They broke in the rain. And then eventually I worked up enough money to get a bike, and I got a bicycle. And then I was on transit on a bicycle pretty much that whole time. So that's actually what was happening. And simultaneously, I ended up getting a job at Subway. And, that was all another reason of why I don't like the job thing for me to work a job. So yeah, it was just a lot of situations. But like I said, while I was trying to get into the TV networks and all that, it was just one of those things where, I wanted to learn, I wanted to get better, I wanted to get into the industry and understand how TV works. And, all they had me doing was basically stuffing envelopes and mailing out to people to donate more to the network. But, while I was doing that, I got to see a little bit more of how their whole system goes. So I was just curious, but that was the phase I was in.
Okay. How did you end up exiting from Orlando, or why?
Oh, yeah. So I left Orlando because, well, for several reasons. But Brent, my business partner now, Brent Jackson, we had started to uh, build our own business doing affiliate marketing for people. So we would basically, let's say if there was a trial offer of a product, okay, let's say if it's like Gamefly or creditreport.com, so many different, different trial offers. So what we would do is we would get people to try that particular product or service, and we would pay them for it because the company said every person that you bring over to us, we will pay you X amount of dollars to try the service. And or to every person that you bring us to try the service will pay you X amount of dollars every time. So for us, we felt like, all right, we're going to make sure we get this done. And we would just pay people. So every time, they would pay us, we'd say, all right, if they pay us $60, we'll pay you $20 to get this done. And we make money every time. So that was the business. And we had ended up making some money with that. Actually made a good amount of money with that, doing that business. And we literally turned it into a work from home job, where we were able to help people, work from home. So I had just started that while I was in Florida. And, I talked to Brent and I said, you know what, I think it's time to take my talents to Long Beach. That's actually what I told him. So he was just like, okay, even though neither one of us lived in Long Beach ever in our lives. But, I just had to say that. So basically, once that happened, I ended up going out to California, moved to LA, lived in Hollywood, did the Hollywood scene, which was great. I definitely had some of the best times of my life, that first year of being in California. So another culture shock. California is like a whole different country compared to Pittsburgh or even Orlando. So, definitely a different world. But I had a good time there, and just had to make those transitions into the business world and really got to expand. So it was a process. It was definitely a process, but that's kind of how I got from Orlando to California, or basically out of Orlando.
Okay. And I remember there were a few different changes in regards to the business. I know that it started off on one model where apparently there was some bread getting given out daily.
Oh, yes. Daily Bread Givers. That was the name. That was actually Brent's name he made up. And then I made my own version, Instant Money Team. And then as a result, we ended up combining our powers and basically calling it Daily Money Team. And it's funny that, even since then, it evolved to a Fluentry connection, which you can actually still look up online to this day. It's still out there, even though we've been closed this business, but still got a lot of videos. Surprisingly, people still have up about Fluentry and all the things that we did at that time. So we actually, did really well with it. We, I think we made like at least $300,000-$400,000 like the first 2 years. And, I was like 24. So that was like a billionaire to me. So I was super excited. You couldn't tell me anything. And I lived in California, so I was just having the time of my life. So that was kind of, my world at that time.
Now, how did that end up? Because this was a good thing going on. How did that end up falling apart?
Honestly, it was several things, but the primary problem was, our whole business model was based off of incent advertising, meaning that we didn't as long as we could pay somebody to do an offer, we were making money. So we turned that into a work from home opportunity. We've had literally over 30,000 people working from home, selling or doing offers, whether they're doing offers themselves or promoting what we're doing to get other people to do offers. That's why we have so many videos still to this day because of that. So when we were doing so, it was a really good process. And for us, we just wanted to, keep that whole thing going. And then that was kind of the whole, that was a large world that, we really got to be a part of and be involved with. And we made, some good income.
But how did it end?
Yeah. So for us, the ending was they went to go pay us, I think it was like $60 per person that we referred. And then they stopped it and they ended up paying us like right around, I think it was like $5 or $7 a person because we were doing it incentivized and they didn't like it. So once that took place, it was just bad. Like they literally completely just, messed up our whole plan basically because not just us, but several different advertisers started pulling out of incentivized advertising. So it really just messed up our whole business model, and we really couldn't keep things going. And for us, again, being young, we didn't know how to pivot, change things up. We didn't set things up to work in our favor. So there's a lot of mistakes we made in that process. Because again, just being young entrepreneurs, being happy you're making money, sometimes you don't think about all these really important details, your systems and all that. I was not at that level at that time. We were just making money. that was kind of how I looked at it. So it fell apart because again, once they start paying us as much, we couldn't keep going and paying, and operating off such a small budget, and things just started going downhill, and it was a problem. It was a bad situation. Well, I'm sure we could have thought of something better to keep going, but we were also burning out as well from doing in that business. So it was a combination of both.
Okay. Well, after the business made the changes, money dried up.
Mm-hmm.
How did that affect you next?
Yeah. So after that, we basically, everybody kind of went their own direction. Brent was working on some of his other stuff, and I was doing my thing. I started doing websites and all that. I got really good at making websites and, doing marketing for people. And that's kind of where we were at. We just focused on I did that and started my own business going that direction. But, I just went from business to business. I had one business and said, okay, this one didn't work. So I started another one because, I refused to just lose like that. And so when this happened, when everything was stopped, I remember I was at my sister's house. I actually went to go visit her, and I think it was some type of family reunion. Was it a family reunion? Yeah, it was a family reunion. And then I ended up staying because my business partner told me, "Hey man, we can't afford to stay here anymore in California where we are. So you might as well stay here while you're over there." And I ended up stuck, and I stayed there. I went to go visit for a few weeks. Ended up staying there for 9 months. So yeah, that was rough. That was a rough time. Me and my sister, we get along well, but we were butting heads at the time because I still have the ego that I'm the person that makes this amount of money, even though my money was no longer at that level. But I still think I am. So mentally, I was still there. So when that happened, I was really humbled, and I had to go back to the drawing board, and I was sleeping in my sister in one of her guest bedrooms, and I stayed in there, and I just kept working on the business, working on the websites. So that was kind of where it all began. And once that took place, I got it where it needed to be, and decided I was going back to California. All I could think about was being in California again. And I went back out there, and that's when things really were difficult. But yeah, I had to get back out there, so I just had to start making money and start trying to do my own business. And I couldn't go back to the job thing. My family, my sisters, she was saying, you can get a job here or there, but I knew I wasn't that person. Like some people are, and I'm not judging anybody, but for me, I just was not trying to work for anyone else. Like I loved doing my own business. So that's kind of where I was and still am.
Okay. So you're back out in California and you have a different plan. And we know that everything doesn't always work out as planned. And in fact, you had said that you had ended up homeless.
Yeah. 3 times this happened. That was rough. So when I moved back, I ended up staying with a friend of mine that I had got through a mutual friend. And basically when I stayed there with this guy and his partner, which, that was its own weird experience. I was not involved with it like in any way like that, but I'm talking about just being with someone who was, homosexual. I never experienced that. So it was like a whole different world, even though they were never weird or anything like that. Like I have nothing negative to say. I would never say anything bad. Like it was nothing but respect and love, from their side. But it was still a little awkward, you know what I mean? Because it's just like going from one extreme of living a certain way to then get humble down here. Then I have to go live with this other couple that's like a gay couple, and that was different. But, I still learned a lot from them as well. But then, I said, I needed to get my own location or be somewhere else, but I couldn't stay in their house forever. So I ended up going to a hostel. Now, for those of you that don't understand what hostels are, there's different levels of the hostel world, but I was in the worst of the levels of the hostel world. So this place, which, they should be shut down for the lack of business they have. But this one hostel was in like North Hollywood, Burbank area. And I can't even remember the name of it because I wanted to delete it out of my mind. It was so bad. But I ended up staying over there for like 6 months, and this hostel had about, let's say, in one bathroom, about 30 people were sharing this one bathroom, and most of them were men. And there was people coming in and out, and it's like, the hostel is kind of like a hotel on a discount. It's just because it's shared with everybody. It's not like a hotel where you have your own room. Like this is just shared with multiple people. So, when I was there, it was just such a task trying to, do anything. And I was around a lot of random characters. There was meth addicts that were living in a hostel with me, coke heads, people that were just, high all the time, criminals. It was like going to jail, but it was just different. It was like free people in jail mentally. So it was rough. And I was there with them, and I was learning, but it was so crazy because despite, how uncomfortable it was, I learned so much from everybody. Like I had some fun times, the whole time I was there. And even though, everyone's different and had different ways of looking at the world, but I had some good times and I, made some good relationships from that time. And it was but it was different. Like, and even the fact that I had bed bugs every day, like every day. All 6 months, the entire time, there were a massive amount of bed bugs. So my whole back and arms would be just completely spotted up every day. Like you would think the mosquitoes were just overtaking me. I was constantly scratching because I was so like caught off guard with these bed bugs every day. Simultaneously, I'm broke and I'm still doing my business full time. And I'm also donating plasma because I was donating plasma to kind of keep up and try to pay for my rent to be in this hostel. And I was still doing my business from time to time of doing branding and marketing, primarily like web design for people. So that was kind of the situation. And, in doing so, I really I learned a lot, definitely learned a lot. But it was definitely a process. I will say that it is definitely not recommended. Those were some of the worst times. I remember one day, we had one guy that came in and he decided to come in with some young girl. She was like maybe, I don't know, 15, 16 years old. And when he came in with this girl, we were all wondering, like, what is he doing? And he tried to get the girl to get in the bed with him and everything. And this guy was like 40 something with this girl. And we don't even know how he found her or what happened, but we ended up, having her leave or whatever, go back to where she was. But it was just a lot of different types of characters, like going from people who were either selling drugs, even the owner of the hostel was selling weed to the people in the hostel. Like it was all the way corrupt. Okay. He was selling it. And it was crazy because, like, I don't look down on, people trying to make money different ways, but it was just that I was I'm coming from a completely different culture. So it threw me off all the way. But, I thought all this was just the worst thing in the world. So, as I went through that process, I was just really struggling, but I kept doing the business. I still was making money, but I just wasn't making enough money, to move forward because my credit was so bad from previous decisions in school and all that. So that's kind of how I got into credit. But I was like, I'm never going to be able to get a car or an apartment because my credit's horrible. And I wanted to get it fixed. So that's kind of where I was at the time. And, since then I got into growing and doing my own business. And when it comes to credit as well, which took me to a different plateau. But yeah, that's kind of where I was at the time.
Okay. So at this time, you're going from making websites to learning about credit.
Mm-hmm.
Did you end up taking some sort of class, or did you just kind of find out on your own?
No, I pretty much researched it thoroughly on my own. I said I was working on a website. So let me just kind of backtrack here for a second. While I was in this hostel, I couldn't afford to get into a new apartment, right? And my credit was horrible. So, and I was supposed to pay for another night at the hostel, and I just said, forget it. I'm just going to figure it out. And that night, was one of the worst days. I still remember to this day because I'm still having the same thinking that I'm the person that was making this amount of money just a year and a half ago. And now I'm homeless. And I had to go take all my clothes, all my luggage, and put it in a shopping cart that I got from the grocery store over there. So, I got all my stuff in the shopping cart, and I'm having to go to the nearest park. There's a North Hollywood Park. Then there's a park a little further up. I think it was closer to Lankershim. So yeah, I was going up the street there and went to go to the park, and I'm basically sneaking in this park trying to find a bench so I can sleep. And but I had to keep my stuff in this cart because I was so worried about it being stolen, and then bugs or whatever it may be get inside, roaches, whoever. So or other people. I just was just so many issues with that. But the crazy part about this was I had just got hired to work at Bank of America, literally maybe a week or two before I left. And so when I had left and was on the street, I'm literally, sleeping it was crazy. I was sleeping in the benches, and the only thing that had went right for me was that I had gotten this job, and that a couple of weeks, even maybe a month or so before, I had bought a suit from someone that was selling stolen suits inside of the actual hostel. So, they had, it's kind of crazy. This, going through this reminds me, I didn't think about any of this stuff in the longest time. So taking me down a memory lane, but yeah, so that's how I got my first suit. Actually, was bought it from somebody, stole it from some store, and I had some clothes, and then from there, when I got the job at Bank of America, I'm homeless, and I didn't start right away, so I ended up having to when I finally did start, I'm having to wear the same suit every single day. I wish hopefully there's some cameras that can see this. I had a black suit on, and I wear the black suit for at least 3-4 months straight. Okay, I have no other clothes, and it was just ugly. It was so bad. I was just, oh my gosh, one of the worst experiences. So I'm over here in a suit, and I'm talking to people as a bank teller at Bank of America. They have no idea that I'm actually homeless as possible, and have nowhere to go. And so I'm going back in the Bank of America, and I'm handling $50,000, and then I'm going back to my bench tonight to go to sleep, and I have to put my clothes. I had to put the shopping cart inside of a laundromat so that it looked like I was about to do laundry when I was at work, but I wasn't. I was just going back to take it out of there, but I kept having to leave it there so no one would steal it, and because I couldn't leave it out on the bench. So it was, there was a lot of stuff. That's why I tell you, when it comes to survival tactics, for making it living, I feel like I can write a book to help anybody. I was in some rough situations. But yeah, so yeah, so that took place, and yeah, it was a rough time. So all of that was going on, and I just said, as I was in the bank, I was like, I need to learn this credit system because this is a big deal. And I'm seeing, people with bank accounts and they're having a lot of money. And I'm like, what am I not doing? And, that was just where my head was. I wanted to learn about credit and started studying more about it. And, eventually, as I went through that process, I've gotten really good at cleaning credit, building it up, helping people with that. And I had already had some business experience and making money. So I just kind of put it all together and kind of went from there.
Okay. So you put it together and you launched these different companies from websites and branding to now you're dealing with companies with raising capital, fixing people's credit, all of those different things. At this point, what is it that keeps you going?
Ooh, being homeless was the number one motivation. You see, that's why I always tell people that are so afraid of it to go through it, because overcoming homelessness will give you such a confidence that no one can take from you. Like there's a part of my inner belief that I could lose everything. You could take every single dollar, but I know that I can recover it because, I had to overcoming that homelessness and doing it from business. You know what I mean? Doing it from me selling and closing and building it the authentic way and not someone saying, hey, here's a $10,000 to bail you out. No, I learned it from literally selling my way out. And I was just selling and closing deals and delivering services, helping people with their sites, helping people with, their credit, all that. But, at this point, that was really where I built my whole, legacy from, was just closing deals. Some people, when it comes down to, the business world, they're always looking to only see capital. And I definitely am all about that as well. We're doing that as well on our side, but it's always about really making sure you know how to sell your product before you try to bring anyone else into it. You know what I mean? Because too many people don't know how to sell it. So they're like, got all this money to manage it and to grow it, but they don't know how to close a deal. So for me, I always tell, new business owners, like it's so important to learn how to sell and really build. When you can sell your product or service and live off of that, off of your own ability to sell, that's when you really, really start to see your confidence build up in whatever business you're in. So that's kind of where my focus was. I always wanted to be able to do my own business full time and not be able to have to depend on anybody else, still pay on my expenses and still live my life, still have fun, still go out, do what I need to do. And that's kind of what my goal was. And that's what, we've accomplished over the years. So yeah, that's kind of, for me at this point, my motivations changed. At that time, I was just trying to get to that point. Now it's always about billions. I really, my goal was always to be a billionaire, and not just so that I can say, oh, I'm a billionaire so I can talk about how rich I am, but or buy a whole bunch of fancy cars. I'm not really that materially motivated, but I always wanted to just be the example that you can be a billionaire, do business, and it not have nothing to do with being an entertainer. Because too much of, particularly in the Black community, we've seen so many entertainers promoted, and nothing against entertainers at all, by the way. But I just want people to see that there's another option and to show that you can still be yourself while being a billionaire and doing it from business and not having to feel like you have to be some super, I guess you can say, different personality than, you are. You don't have to forsake your entire culture or, being Black or whatever it may be to do so. You can do it as long as you know what you're doing, you do business the right way, you can get the results. So for me, it's always been about being the example, because that's how I got into business, from seeing an example. Even though I never spoke, I didn't even talk to him at the time. I just saw him and I was motivated. And I feel like, for me, I want to be able to be that example for people to see like, hey, you can really do this and you don't have to be any certain way. You can have this problem like he has, or be this way, or have this flaw, and still overcome all that and hit this goal. And it be literally based off of just putting the work in every day, not being handed blessings where someone just, hey, here's 100,000, 200,000 to bail you out all your habits, or bail you out all your, failures. For me, it was always like I put that time in with business. Like I've been doing my business since I was 15. I'm 34. So, I put a lot of time into this one area of understanding the business world, how things go. And I'm still learning, still got a lot to learn. But, I put my fair share in, learning the business world and really being able to navigate it. That's why I feel confident regardless of what business I'm in, what the scenario is, I can always do it. And also being able to live and turn that into something I can live off of full time immediately. And that's one of the things that, I pride myself on, is being able to do that. So that's also why I like to help a lot of people get their first 100K or 200K in their business, because, a lot of times, and as a business owner, that's the gap. People don't know how to do that. Once you get past there, you can do the rest because it's just scaling that up. But this is that right there is a lot of times the gap that people don't always make it to. So, a lot of the information I've given out and help people with has always been, how to set things up business wise, from credit, investing, to your own, revenue, and making that work and being able to close. All these things matter. So, when it comes about what motivates me, be an example, helping other business owners, people who are entrepreneurs make it. That's probably my biggest motivation. It's just because really there's nothing else, not to like, a certain level of income. Like, what's the point? If you have $100 million, your lifestyle is probably not that much different than a person that has 100 billion. It's just they have more of what you already have, but you're already pretty much good. So your motivation has to be deeper than money. You know what I mean? Because the money thing is going to be up and down, but your core values and where you're coming from has to be consistent, regardless of how good money is or isn't. Your belief has to be the same, regardless of how good is, whether it is or isn't. So all those things are, matter to me, and that's kind of where I get my motivation from.
Okay. Well, Les Brown had said the graveyard is the richest place on earth. And of course, we know that a lot of people have ideas and don't actually do anything about it. What would you say to those people that have ideas or want to do business ventures that are on the fence?
Well, I think everyone's in a different situation, but the first step that I would always do, regardless of whatever venture it is, all you need is either, you don't even really need a website, but I would just get a website just so you have something to show people, because that's what people expect a lot now. Use your job, okay? Whatever job you have, use the job to then give you the extra money or a little bit of extra money to pay for a website to be done, or learn how to make it yourself, one or the other, okay? Once you got the website, it's time to get to selling, okay? Sell, 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 and sell. That's all you need to be thinking about, selling. Every day, you need to promote and sell. Promote and sell. There's a lot of other areas in your business that you can do that'll make it better and all that. But if you're new to business, you need to fix this is your biggest problem. Once you learn how to sell, everything else is easier because you can always fix it with more money, okay, or a better decision here or there. But you got to know how to sell it. So if you're thinking about going into business, or wondering or if you should jump out there, go through it. Whatever bad happens, it's going to be great, because life is always working out for you anyway. It's always going in your favor, even when you think it's not. So, what's the thing that I learned about being homeless, multiple times? It's like, even when I thought I was done and nothing was there, it's really to make me stronger and understand why I have to do it this way, and why if I don't do it this way, it will lead to this result. and being really clear on that. So definitely when you're looking to start a business, obviously, you know, I have so much information to give you, but the first thing is you got to learn how to sell. So if you have a website already, great. But selling is more important. Promoting it. So if you're not doing that, then you're going to have a problem, regardless of, you know, how established you are in business or not. You know, these are the core things you have to have together. So if you're looking to start a business, another thing I will say is to belief. I love, you know, to me, Bob Proctor to me is the greatest speaker to walk the earth. Okay, in terms of like whether it be motivation, psychologically, whatever you're looking for, like I would just study Bobby P. Okay, his information to me is the greatest content I've ever heard from anybody, including Tony Robbins and so many other Les Brown. I like all them, but Bobby is on another level. Okay, this is like he's like the Olympics, okay, or the NBA of speaking, you know, and a lot of his information is again just so, you know, valuable, and you know he has so much secrets to success and so many different things that you should learn from, because a lot of times people don't go out into business because their personal view of themselves is not there. So a lot of times, you know, that confidence is a problem, and you can't fake confidence. Confidence really only comes from a strong belief, and that belief has to be based off of something, right? So how do you believe? Well, action, experience. When you experience your success, your confidence will go up. So that's why I said if you sell, okay, and promote and sell, now you're going to start believing, which then will then cause you to grow and feel that confidence as a business owner to really make things happen. Now, once you get to the point within that you can live on your own solely from your business and ability to sell and close, now you've reached that point where now all you have to do is scale that up by adding more people, more talent, more better quality services, better products, whatever it may be, and you're going to be able to take it to the, you know, to the maximum level. But you got to master this part first, because if you don't get this done, then you're going to just be spending, you know, wasting your time. So that's kind of how I always approach it.
Wow. That was a lot of nuggets there, and I hope that anyone was listening. Go ahead and replay that section. That was huge there. So how would people be able to get in contact with you or your company if they need help with these things?
Yeah, you can just go to ashtonwsanders.com. Feel free to check me out there. I got all my contact info is on there. So you can definitely reach out, and, you know, I'll definitely be there to help and guide you the right direction. We have a lot of like consultation that we do in terms of that, and so many other things. So if you're looking for guidance on business, credit, investments, whatever, you know, real estate, whatever you're looking to do, give me a call. Let's get on the right page. Let's help you get where you need to be.
All right. Ashton W. Sanders,